This video is a beginning of looking into something with a huge disclaimer that this is done for study purposes and it does not attempt to have any more strong opinions or predictions. So for families involved, people involved, yes, take it with a grain of salt. This is astrological look at the 6th and 7th of October 2024 as per kidnapping and the imprisonment of kidnapping. What I'm going to focus on is the lunar mansion, which is where the moon was at the time, and what does it tell about kidnapping and imprisonment. First of all, we must understand that events started 6th of October, not 7th, and therefore we are looking at the 8th and the 9th lunar mansion to be particular. By the time the moon crossed to the 10th lunar mansion, it would already be another story. Okay, so basically between the 9th and the 10th, the 8th and the 9th lunar mansion, 6th October evening, 7th October morning, and at 8 hours into 7th October, only then soldiers were allowed to do something about this. And that was the WHO invasion, first to Israel and then to Gaza by proxy. So by proxy, what the media said was that Hamas invaded, then said many organizations, it's not just Hamas, and then response of what the media said was IDF, and indeed IDF was recruitment of soldiers, so they did use IDF by proxy. There were also laser used at Nova by testimonials, very similar to the Maui. Okay, ritual sacrifice, the same as just usual. What we know from whether it's Luciferian or other such events. And so let's begin with lunar mansions. The first lunar mansion I'm looking at is the 8th lunar mansion, and for 8th lunar mansion, it is again, it's a lunar mansion that promises victory at war through taking captives. Okay, and again, when we talk of victory, but this is why I made this disclaimer, we talk of, how should I say it? This is for the side that actually started this. Okay, so we're not going to see it as Israel and Hamas. It's very important. And so this basically the strategic procedure of kidnapping people is opportune for this lunar mansion, which is why it was chosen there, and long imprisonment, unfortunately. Okay, but this is also lunar mansion we use to make talismans against captivity. Okay, so for people working with 8th lunar mansion magically, it's also used to protect from captivity. Then we talk about the 9th lunar mansion, and we already get into 7th of October with this one. This is for the Maui case, for the Nova party, for the lasers, and for the doctors kidnapping people. And yes, accompanied by whether it's Hamas legions or mixed legions, and so on, where IDF presence was only allowed 8 hours later. So for this lunar mansion, it says, interesting, it says that the captivity is long and hard if a person is captured for skills. And so we know that from agriculture regions, there were already people captured for they were working in agriculture. Um, um, and then the question is what would qualify skills, but it is a captivity, an imprisonment, that again is foretelling long imprisonment, which was the case, unfortunately, for the people who were kidnapped. This one does not show up as to make talismans. Yes, so that was when the people were kidnapped. It does not foretell, however, to die in prison. Okay, this is important. Foretells long imprisonment, but does not foretell dying or death. Again, the lunar mention is not the whole story, but this is one perspective for what we look. Then the question is, did the moon reach the 10th lunar mention? Well, by the time that the moon reached the 10th lunar mention, basically the initial invasion was pretty much tended to. Maybe we had some from the invasion, but we have to take into account that doctors or these people guised as doctors kidnap people on a daily basis, and I want you to turn to the Imagination podcast regarding for how they do this, how they use even psychic attack to bring people further to hospital, to jail, or kidnapping, and the guise of medicine in that regard, and of course the guise of actual warfare in that regard. So from that one is also foretelling long imprisonment, long hard imprisonment. And so for the people that were taken by the time the moon reached 10th lunar mention, that would be 7th October, towards the evening or towards noon, which unfortunately, yes, was still going. Again, if the event was broadcasted 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., then you would think 8 hours later, but that would be 2 p.m. Okay, and that is only then army began to make the way. So we understand the moon could have reached the 10th lunar mention, and they will have long, hard imprisonment. So again, none of this says dies in captivity. When dies in captivity, we have lunar mentions when we say die in captivity, but the point here was actually not to kill people in captivity from the vantage point of those who perhaps performed the kidnapping, but to win at war through taking captives. Okay, again, this is very difficult to analyze. Because the kidnappers is coming from WHO, so so it's not like a national conflict or local conflict, and so I think that would be wrong to try to analyze it as in both inside a job, because it's not inside a job, it's outside a job, used people by proxy that are infiltrations, but it's not outside job by Palestine, but by WHO, WEF, and kind of like world order changes, which are cutting wage to the Vatican. So what they wanted is to choose this opportune time for the take captivity as a strategic move to win at war. And we know that these people, that do expendable children on the regular, some children not even registered. So what is for them to take people? This people die is not the problem, but actually from strategic point of view, it's not benefic. Okay, what they did is not benefic, because if we look at the 10th lunar mention, which is the lunar mention where we tropically find Cancer and Procyon in Cancer, then we understand that is important. Yes, you can. First of all, 10th lunar measure is good for releasing of captivity, from captivity. But then they already just kidnapped. First of all, yes, it's possible that certain people were put back and not known. Like there are all kinds of things. But I think that could be seen as diminishing something. Well, in fact, the truth is much more horrid. So I don't see point. Okay, I mention it just so that you know if that will pop up. What about people who practice these things, who are involved with kidnapping of people on both sides, all sides? Then it's important that such stories will pop up, and it can be true that certain people were released and that was not known, especially around the evening. Okay, 10th lunar mentioned, but it's important to remember that the horrors do exist and they did happen. Okay, and it's important to remember, not just for the sake of the families around this, but to understand basically the strategy, because it's global strategy. And so actually it's not strategic to harm captives. Okay, and so what I think what they were trying to do in this is to cause a perpetual war. So the strategy and the thought that is because it is by proxy, then Hamas would lose, or both Hamas and Israel would lose, rather than WHO would lose, which again I think is not successful. All these attempts to do things by proxy, all the black sun rituals, okay, making rituals with eclipses, all these destructive rituals, nature corrects itself. I guess not for nothing. What is the Gen Z? I always give this example because it's so beautiful. Yeah? Oh, not here. And what is the Gen Z known for at work is that they are not really working, okay? So it's not really working. And why? Because they're neurodivergent. So they need a safe space at work, sensory safe space. They constantly rebel. They're ungovernable. Gen Z is 7th generation forward to Pluto in Gemini, which was Oppenheimer's, the Oppenheimer, okay, the Manhattan Project. And what basically happened is after Industrial Revolution, there were many toxins. Those toxins were used to make a bomb, but afterwards, just they put the toxins and call it, fluoride. They say it's good for the teeth, and then they bomb you with fluoride. And all these neurotoxins basically affect the brain function, and then what the side effect that they cause is basically for people to be extra sensory, in the sense that they're very sensitive and they can't work, they can't do like everybody, and they're not governable, which is just what we need right now. So so you see how the Industrial Revolution created this problem. Gen Z is the solution to this problem. And so again, all of these attempts to maneuver at nature in destructive way, also when you think about magic, of to think that for the magic, or we do an act of violence of engraving something into a stone, it's like, okay, you can see it in that way. It's also a genuine attempt to connect and create relation with nature. So we're less afraid of nature and more cooperative with the cosmos and what's around. And it's another way to see that. And so all of these destructive things, we see on long term that they corrected themselves. And so again, what it only made is for people to be more aware of WHO, of the many assassinations, because how are you centered when your village is in risk of being slaughtered, and really there wasn't anybody that didn't know anybody, and so on, or in Gaza 30,000 I think dead, But what centers you eventually is when you get to the truth. And when you get to the truth, you are centered and you're clear and you speak the truth and you're back in the body. And then people are more centered, so they even more notice that this is coming from WHO, from WEF, from Vatican, rather than disarrayed or disbalanced as predicted, supposedly. Okay, so again, what all of this says is long imprisonment. What it doesn't say is torture prisoners or misuse prisoners. Yes, especially for 10th Lunar dimension, when it says long and hard imprisonment, it also foretells don't, okay, don't mistreat prisoners, because that fucks up the strategy, and it's obvious that people that plan this want to fuck up the strategy because they don't want to have the word that you're taught. It's like, oh, war is the continuation, or how is it in the Supreme Court in Netherlands? It's the same. That where judiciary decisions fail, violence begins. Okay, so war is the continuation of negotiation by other means. And so when you think about this, so all the martial arts, all the arts of war, where they talk about how to end war, they talk about basically bringing things back into balance so we can negotiate again. Because just to make sure, it's like, no, you don't. It's like, if we don't find a way to agree on this, then we will have to fight on this. But the point is to bring it back to negotiation so we can agree on this. So eventually we'll have to agree on this. We'll have to find a way that works for both of us. Eventually we'll have to find a way. And so this is the art of war. And the more we talk about besieging of cities, which is the same thing I looked at the first week of the war, it's like, okay, let's go to the art of war, let's see what's going on. Well, besieging of cities is basically the most cost-effective. Okay, so this is basically, if you think about invasion, besieging, it's like, and then bringing back to the response to which is now judged as like, is it genocide? Isn't it genocide? And all the International Court of Law and the definitions, and juristic definitions of what's a genocide that pop up as a result of this. And so you understand that there's nothing here that strategically benefits anybody. Okay, it's like if you slaughter whole villages, you're doing a war crime. Say, oh, it was done before, it was this, it was that. Yes, but if you want to bring Israel to justice, you will have to go with them if you sacrifice them. And then it's like, well, why don't we put WHO on war crimes? Because they did it. Okay, this makes more sense. And I'm still waiting for the Haag versus the WHO. I've been saying that for 2 years. That's going to be, interesting. Don't bring popcorn, so you won't choke on it. It is WHO, they're doing witchcraft. Not the light one that we do to have like abundance and so on. Yes. Now, for what I have to say about this is that basically we're really exposed to the fact that every move was made on purpose so that things will get fucked up. So even if it's good time for victory by captivity, then they said, no, mistreat the captives. It's the wrong, if you have to understand the ethics of war, okay, they don't stand there for nothing. There are laws to nature. The people that invented war, they looked at nature and they looked at how to balance things, and there were shamans there, and there were people, when you study martial arts, Eastern, then you study the medicine, you study how to bring back the energy to balance, how to do battle, which means to bring energy to balance, yes, and the philosophy, and of course what the closest word is meditation, but for different practices is ways to align your energies and more still, bodily still praxis. There's all the becoming water, or what it's various traditions, and so the concept is still the same concept, whether you add the weapon or not of laser is the same concept. And when you understand this, concept, it's a very simple concept because every person was supposed to be able to protect themselves. In medicine, it was when you come and you learn how to do this, yes, you need to show your master that you're serious, you're going to study. But if it was very accessible, yes, very not in the sense, okay, it was not accessible for everybody because you have to dedicate your time to studies and so on. But it was not, the teaching was not meant for so that only so and so will do it. Okay, you were paying a doctor for as long as you were healthy, and then if not healthy, then you don't pay doctor. So that means that they have to teach you how to live good. So how to fight, how to eat, how to do steel praxis. Okay, bodily steel praxis, very dynamic praxis, but yes, not so with the physical body by appearance. And so many traditions that's how it's went. So we the people were not meant to not be sovereign, not defend ourselves, not know what to eat, and so on. And when you get that you first of all understand that it's not rocket science, then you understand that everything, all the strategies played out is for everything to not work. So what we're seeing is not a war, but an inversion of a war. Okay, and that's why you get people mistreated. And why it's not good to mistreat captives? Because if you want to bring energy to balance, this is also why rape is so terrible. Of all cases in general, but definitely for war, because when you want to return to the negotiation table. Okay, you want to return to the negotiation table. The more torture you put, the more energy you sacrifice, the more you do, and of course sexual energy is trying to mess with the life energy of people, which backfires so seriously. So that is where essentially you are trying to make it impossible to go back to peace, to ease, to energies that you can work with on a day-to-day basis. We understand that what the opponent is, what you are, is dynamic system. Okay, so this is when you practice art of war. But people who don't practice art of war, then it's a problem because the most humane thing is to kill them. This is very important because if you can balance out the energy, that's lovely. But when they don't practice art of war, when they to this point where, okay, the most humane thing is just to put end to their suffering. It's just like, instead of for them trying to torture you, if you do it more humanely, then yes. So, but in general, when we look at it, we're thinking out of war. The opponent is not some stranger. The opponent is a person who is not in balanced energy, and there's something unbalanced in your energies, and then you move the energy around until it is balanced, and then you end the battle. Okay, if you go back. So basically, that's how this battle starts. With two people having the kneel in front of each other, ending in the same way. And each time you bring the energy back to the earth. So this is, of course, changing from tradition to tradition. But when you talk about art of war, this is art of war. But the people don't practice art of war, but they practice perpetual war. Then what they are inversion of everything. Okay, so for this, it's good to bring the energy back to balance and so on. But it's also a stop, okay, when you say, okay, it's not, and allow for mercy killing of those who come to kill you, because they don't practice out of focus. No, they're not planning to stop this, they're not planning to go with you to the negotiation table. They're not doing that. So the question how you know is basically you first of all always begin with bringing energy to balance. Always begin, but it's psychologically. If you look at my videos the 7th of October, you saw completely out of war. Okay, I was not aware of that, but it was completely out of war. Okay, so bringing my energy to balance and then calling on the planets that are associated with bringing energy to balance and centering, okay, for what is it actually about, and so paying attention. But hey, this is not, and of course talking about what we do instead of ritual sacrifice, also tending to the psychological, the philosophical, so all these levels, and I was growing garlic, so all these levels of out of war, for the practice for real out of war, okay, for when eventually we the people gonna have to live with the people. Your nationality, your race, your gender, what's between your legs, what's not between your legs, doesn't matter. We're people. Okay, for not different species or what's not, and even when people practice for eugenics or bloodlines and so on, you have to take into account biodiversity, because eugenics, pure form of eugenics, degenerates the race. Always mix, always want to mix, and so the dynamism of our bloodlines is also changing. So again, tending to all these things together. And from this point, I say, of course, if you keep a person in imprisonment, of course they're stressed, they miss their family, they don't know what's to be. And then if you torture them in imprisonment, it's not done to end war, was done to. But basically, what you're supposed to do if you have to take someone captive is to treat them the best. Okay, to treat them the best, so that you're diminishing the karma. Okay, with the karma, with the energy that you're messing with, and making it possible. Okay, always use the least amount, being efficient, the least amount of energy you need to use in order to go back to agreeing. Because you're gonna have to, if you did horrible things, doing horrible things to each other, you can't agree anymore. Yes? But if you said, okay, we had a fight, we had argument, okay? Let's say you had argument, I don't know, with your roommate, and your roommate, I don't know, took a sock and threw it on the floor, okay? It may have pissed you off tremendously, and maybe it touches on some childhood trigger, okay? Eventually, you process the trigger, they process their own dumbfuckery, you sit and talk about your dumbfuckeries, and you agree, okay? Or you separate, or something like that. Gotta have housing first. But if what they did was violating your boundaries, violating your sexual energy, all of that, there's no sitting together talking about it. That they messed with the energy too much for you to be able to sit and talk with them. Psychological control, all these things mess with the energy is too much. Okay? So you can't sit with them on the table after having doing such thing. You messed with energy too much. Okay? Yes, can't do it. And so the people really have to be aware of this, because the environment has to support this. Okay, so you have to have housing for supportive of nervous system, not just housed on some 39th floor, some room. No, feet on soil, ability to grow food, ability for your, I don't know, dog to run free in the yard, ability to roam free, okay, for safety in the streets, for just, again, toxin-free soil, fresh air, good temperature, having trees around. All of these things, the environment, okay, is so important. But then also affects the ability to reduce. Okay, people talk about feng shui. It's not just the feng shui for inside the house, but also for the location or outside the house. And this affects our lives tremendously. Okay, so you don't have to do like feng shui. It's just to know, okay, yes, you need so and so acres and so on. And the more you have this, the more you have choices that you can take to advantage and be a better person. Okay, we're not meant to live for without this. When we die, we cross over. But in the living, we're not meant to not have. Okay, if you feel called in for something else is true for you, of course you have your own life path. But yes, for most people, we are called to have, to be present, and to use the elements and to have access to the elements, the fresh air, fresh clear water, the fertile soil, toxin-free soil, okay, energy that is good for us, good source, okay, not Chernobyl, okay, so that is, yes, that is important, and from this reason you understand that mistreating is what we call war ethics. Is not just, some fluffy concept of war. No, it is the serious thing, because for war, what war is the continuation of negotiation by other means. Okay, so if somebody tries to swindle you, so to make the negotiation so that to make you desperate, then you say, no, I'm going to act on this. Okay, but for when you do war, it's not about, ritual sacrifices, ritual abuse, it's like, whom are you sacrificing this to? Definitely not Allah. Definitely not Rahman, Rahim. Definitely not. Definitely not Elohim. Chapayim, Rav Chesed, full of mercy. Definitely not God. Christ consciousness. Yes. So who? WHO. For what? Because the more people do this, then this people busy fighting each other. Then, but what happens? Imagine you walk into a room, everybody fighting everybody, and there's a dinner table full of food. So what you do? You go for everybody, fight everybody. So you wait until they kill each other, and you have all the food, all the land, all the real estate, all the this, all the that. Okay, those are the eclipses with Aries. Okay, why would you want to do this? Well, basically, if you don't have access to the plate, or you don't want others to have access to the plate, but basically it will somehow marginalized because of how these people are growing and groomed and put through a lot of either torture or like combination of torture and worshipping is also happening. Then this is how what they grew into. Okay, so that marginalized by that merit, and therefore, although they're of elite, are not close to the plate of joy of living. And so that's another thing, yes, to understand. Again, as much as you can to alchemize the energy is the best. But also understand that no one has the right to take for sovereignty, take for right to be, take for a right to be good people. Because for the resources that we need to be good people, where's the food, where's the soil, where's the housing, validation, this is to be seen and validated and accepted. Yes, no one has the right to take this, yes, from us. This is what makes of people a good decision. About, I keep saying, but open dialogue in Finland, give the practice with housing first, then the worst psychiatric conditions, psychosis. People go woo-woo, totalos, kaput, okay? When they're housed and they're believed and they talk and they manage to find, to explain, understand that they can speak, not only not psychosis, now they're channelers. For the housing, they have to be ensured that they can live forever, whether they're able to work, not able to work. And then there are recoveries for this addictions, psychosis, everything. People recover. Because what was missing, was the underlying cause, was safe attachment. Okay, so safe housing, safe relation. This is housing first, open dialogue, safe relation. And they don't, no pills, no nothing. Okay? It's important. It's not about don't take pills. It's about your will and consent. And it's about when things are done. If you want to try something, you can try something. But nobody stands, with the bullet saying, oh, you must take this, you must take that, this vaccine, that vaccine. So, okay? That's how people heal from the hardest of ailment. Everything. Very simple. Root chakra, soil, housing, relational chakra. Then you can build a solar chakra, and I am. Now you want to do something with yourself. And then maybe you fall back. But for you say, for these two chakras I have, I'm believed, I'm seen, and I have a place to be. Now I can try and climb up. Okay? Yes, for the Finnish societies where the more they embrace innovation, because it's innovative, they're very innovative, but the more that they embrace for everybody to do this, it's both preventative and allows people to rise. Okay, so not to stay in a certain level and then stuck. Then there is regression. So it's important, I think, this knowledge is important for you to know. For their sacrifice, I'm going to reiterate what I said around 7th of October, okay? For blood rituals, okay? Grow hibiscus or bring hibiscus, for this hibiscus tea, dried hibiscus, fresh hibiscus, for what you need, okay? First, menstrual blood is okay, but I'm talking about, for people who would murder people and stuff like that. It's not necessary, and this I'm thankful to African practitioners that shared this wisdom, okay, because it used to make sacrifice even of children, of humans. Abraham and Yitzchak's story I was not surprised when God said, oh, take your only child and sacrifice, because it was practiced, unfortunately, in sections of hidden societies, is still practiced to sacrifice first child. And I then think Ronald Bernard mentioned that. And so Abraham was not surprised, but then yes, this God said, no, stop. You don't have to sacrifice a child. Not only that, if you sacrifice animal for me, you eat from this only so and so times a year. You eat from this sacrifice. And then Abraham insisted on bodily mutilation. God says, what do you need that shit for? I said, I need something. I said, maybe my penis. What do you need that shit for? Something, okay, then the tiny tip of the thing that you forget to shower a little bit, and you can take this off. And people, Jews hung to it. But the rabbinicals, they know that this is bullshit. It's not Jewish. It's pagan from a Jewish point of view. Yes, they know it. Now a strong movement to, bring situation back and not do this, and use the freaking soap. So healthier and better when people want to enjoy sex for both everyone. It's just supposed to cushion. So yes, it has a job. Um, and so for what, instead of human sacrifice or sacrifice of animals or blood sacrifice of any sort, you can use hibiscus and gods, whichever deities you work with, they are acceptive of that. So it's not needed. Okay, so again, you're going back, understanding that all of these destructive shit is not for God. Okay. But whichever your god or gods or deities, it's not for God. It's not needed. It's not only that, it's basically interfering in your way for you connect with whatever, which way for, whether it's divine. Now, if you're atheistic, then very likely you're a moral person, that you don't need all the crap I just said. You're like, that's fucked up. Hey, that's strategy for war. It's not really achieving anything. What they're trying to do is to perpetuate war. That makes more sense. So you don't need all that. Yes, it's just like you really don't need all the rest to understand this basic principle. But when you practice, um, then you're like, what do they? Well, like, why do these people do it? Why is evil the problem of evil, and so on and so forth? Um, is yes, for people are not cut off from love, then those things begin to appear. And this is why many people look at it as spiritual warfare. But again, what is the term spiritual warfare? Okay, about all this fight for peace and so on. Okay, it's both existing, but also is generated in a certain way to perpetuate this spiritual warfare, which is also necessary. So I hope you gained some information from this. So when we look at 7th October, it was attempt to reach something with the use of kidnapping. So the use of kidnapping is opportune for this, and it's long imprisonment, but it's both a time where you could do, for the first part, the 8th lunar mentioned, first phase of cancer, you could do talismans against imprisonment and captivity. Yes, or against captives. So basically, if you don't want the captive to kill you or something like that, yes. But for the rest, it's long imprisonment, and again, very not opportune to mistreat people that are already in compromised situation. Just to mistreat them fumbles with the fabric of the planet in a way. And I want to talk about the interview I began to watch, and this is a woman who talks about, is expert in nuclear war, and why, and first of all, yes, I don't remember the name of, I have the faces of both of them. I'll try to bring it in the comments later. So one thing you need to know is that because nuclear war simply means that, I don't know, let's say North Korea can tomorrow decide that they let loose and they let loose a ballistic missile that has 6 minutes, like a rocket you can send to space, but 6 minutes from there reaches the United States, nuclear bomb. Okay, so the United States would have 6 minutes to respond. To accommodate for this, they made black book. First, like, what do you do? Where do you bomb? Because you have to neutralize this thing. Is you have to, if in the air, but has to land somewhere. And there cannot be a cabinet. Okay, so you have to make decision in seconds. So for this, it means that the Sitting's president is supposed to make this decision, and sole decisions. So basically, what it created for a loophole where the president can send a nuclear weapon solo. And for when you talk about the procedure of launching atomic veterans, That was another interview this podcast had with an ex-CIA agent. So for the nuclear people, they sit in the nuclear bunkers, then they constantly have drills when they send supposedly nukes, but they never know if it's a drill or not. Okay, and so if a president decides to nuke, he sends order, nuke. There's no, for 6 minutes, chain of command. In 6 minutes, we could start a nuclear war. I was like, and then he asked her, well, what are these rational players? And she said, well, I've get to know the Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project, and include my beloved Feynman, and she says, you would rather, I don't remember what she said, but she said, like, you cannot think you can bet on any of these folks to have reason, because they were trained to obey orders. Like I mentioned for the previous CIA agent, you press a button. It could be a drill, it could be a real thing, okay? You're just a finger that presses a button. They could replace you with a robot, which they probably are doing by now. So, optimization of nuclear war. And yes, when people talk about the dangers of AI, they are not joking. Okay? And so, shit ton of weapon and all the political theories of rational players, we understand this is beautiful with Jupiter Gemini, because there are all these theories around nukes. Okay, but then it comes to the actual. Okay, for example, when I was 7th of October, like this villages slaughtered around and so on. It's like, what's going on? I was like, let's go back to the basics. Art of war, what are they doing? They're besieging cities. This is ridiculous. They're not doing art of war. So it's not a war. So what is it? Oh, they are taking over some land. Who? Palestine? Doesn't look like it. Israel will respond. Israel? Doesn't look like it. All the people planning on, I don't know, having lucrative real estate in Gaza, I would not put all the eggs in that basket. So who? Who? That makes more sense. The hospitals, jails, retreats, exile are the 12th house. So this means this is whoever does anything in hospital is the 12th house of every country. Okay, this is why we have medical welfare since antiquity. But and this is why I have to have global verstinkene. It would be verstinkene. It would not be medicine. Okay, we need diversity for science to flourish. We need to be able to agree, but we also, to be able to agree, we need to be able to disagree. And to be able to disagree, we need to be able to agree. Of one thing we can agree on is just one body that makes all the decisions for all the world. It's not sovereign. And it's in the 12th house of each and every one of us. This is why sovereignty, for how people kill from psychosis. Hearing voices. Something tells me to this, something frightened me. Oh, I feel that this or that. It's real. Anybody in Israel probably felt it by now, to various degrees. Palestine, very likely. I got people in lodges in Netherlands. I'm not in a lodge. I was just writing about a talisman bestseller. Then a person responded to me. He said, from our lodge in Netherlands, we felt ripples of what happened 7th of October. But he doesn't know that a couple of ranks above him, they were planning this. Okay? But it's not for me to think that he was planning this. You have to understand, because you don't know what's happening in upper ranks. Okay? And this is also why I say get out of the lodges before November. Yes, before November 19th, Pluto goes into Aquarius for good. This is the time where they persecuted everybody for around everything, because it's the 20 years of attempting to abolish cults. There are various ways of trying to do that, and that is that's what they call spiritual warfare, and this is true. Historically, it is true. So yes, would it be like smart to do astrology in this time? Probably not, but it's also like the time where astrology and science is transformed the most. And this is, some souls come to the start. It's a part of this. Um, and so, if astrology is still centering in my life, then I guess even those probably have better, I don't know, sell tomatoes, as my friend suggested, in the market. So she's probably right. I should have better sell tomatoes in there. But for this to be safe to me, I need for the entire world to change, and right now I do this through astrology. So then I can sell tomatoes in the market. Say it's no problem. I'm not do astrology. Sell tomatoes in the market. You just follow the moon. So it was a good election to open a basta in the market for tomatoes. So yes, I think that was coverage of a lot of ground, and I know this is not solving for like will people be back, will people this, will people that, unfortunately. So even though for what the moon says, we saw that people were reported dead, of bodies rescued. So again, and what we can also, well, I think it's fair to say that it also depends on where the moon is, to what degree, for what, yes, natal chart for person, okay. And this is all things to look at. Okay, it's just one aspect out of many aspects, and all of that, even that, is dogma. Okay, when you look at reality, that's what I called about the Jupiter Gemini. You look at reality, I say, hey, they're not. Decision cities is the most expensive, cost-effective thing, and it's not lasting long, and you lose the morale of your warriors very easily. Why is it done? Oh, but they don't try to do a war that ends, and they have unlimited resource of expandable people. That's us, we the people, globally. So you get it, yes. You can entrench yourself in some nations with a bunch of corporations, or you can get this. And so that's one thing. But another thing for Jupiter Gemini, when we see that, kind of like, hey, there's big theories, but then what happens in praxis? And in praxis, it's very easy to see when the theory is not applied. This is medicine. Okay, the theories, millions of theories. We see in praxis what helps: house, being believed, being able to speak about taboo topics without being silenced. That's what works in praxis. That's what works in praxis. You cannot peel that away. You cannot take a peel for it instead of this. Cannot. I tried. Cannot. So you understand, I was a person does a thing like I do, Yes, you understand. I've been through psychic torture. I've been through for these things. And for the only thing that helps is to for housing and so on, and yes, to speak. And so this is a very weird position to be in. Okay, it's like, I went to psychic torture in attempts to kidnap me and that which they call, yes, rape, psychic rape. What now? Speak even more truth. It's the only way back to the body. That's just basically how it is. So it's like there's no other way. There's no other. You cannot take a pill. You cannot take a shot. Believe me, if there was a pill or a shot or this or some way I could shoot this away, I would. But it's the only way to get back to the body is to speak and to tell what your truth is and to say even more truth. It's the only way. So it's a very scary position, but it's also very, sane. And when you see in praxis, the nature does correct itself. And so it's not a chip that you can put or this or that. But believe me, I've seen people that have heard the stories. They go in and out of hospital with this chip in the brain. Okay, because they tried all the pills, nothing worked, and maybe the chip in the brain. Okay, are you housed? Are you seen and believed? Can you talk, be heard, be accepted? And are those things happening independently of whether you're able to produce? Okay, to be productive. That's what's up. That's life. What would shamans ask you if you came to them? Okay, well, you were sick. Did you dance enough? Did you laugh enough? Did you create enough? Did you sleep well? Did you drink enough water? The water is clear. These are the basic questions. So how is your life? If your life's not good, you cannot peel that away. You cannot chop this away. You cannot chip it away. But what I want to understand, what I want you to understand is that yes, you can enhance your life. Whether it's herbs or it's oils or it's whatnot. Even for when I take the oils, then what? I make changes. It's a start at something. It's plant teachers. That's what it is. And so that's just every person finds their own way of tending to these things. If you know what the medicine is, then more difficult to fool you. And also, if you were fooled, yes, I was fooled for a lot of time. I was like, maybe this pill, I don't know, but I find something new, but I don't like this side effects, or I don't like this, but I don't like that, or that's maybe chip in the brain, I don't know. Okay, I was with the people that wanted to have chip in the brain. It's like, that must be a very cool experience. It's not. That's what, if you can regulate the heartbeat, you can regulate the brain waves. Yes, but you need to take the radiation out or the toxins out. Then you regulate it, and you take some lavender, you regulate your brain waves. That's what, like, it's the same technology. Okay? When you build it over these frequencies, you will get good health. But when you fumble with that, with frequencies totally unrelated, it's a nice idea, but Yes, this is unfortunately, we don't have the medical ethics to make it work right now. And what we need is the medicine. But anyway, you cannot chip away soil. You cannot chip away house. You cannot chip away being seen, validated. It's the place where you can be who you are. You cannot chip it away. You cannot take a pill and it doesn't work. Even with oils. What happens? I speak, I'm more authentically myself, then this breakthrough, that breakthrough is helping me, is facilitating connection. That's what it's doing. It's facilitating connection from me to my body, from me to the soul, from me to the house, from me to my neighbors, from me to the community. That's what it does. We have one of the talismans I've worked with, and I've a couple of times happened to me, 2 times. One, I was buying some groceries. The other one was just some sweets for me. There was a bit money missing. And people helped me with that. And I've said, this is so interesting. I work with this talisman. Was not that I have abundance, but as that I'm accepting of help. Why is a lesson for me? Because I was in a situation in my life where I needed help, was not coming correctly or coming but with bad motivations. And what I need is to accept genuine help, genuine benevolence. Okay, and to give, of course, but also to accept. Because I'm like, why is this happening? And also to communicate. Yes, to ask for help. Because I've did not ask for help anymore because I felt so traumatized for what happens when I ask for help. And then happen these experiences. It's corrective. Okay, when you say, oh, I've given up this because it's bringing more trauma and it's difficult for me to be a civilized person, then I try to go for another way. And then you take what the oils or the talismans, and then it facilitates a different experience. That's what it does. Even MDMA for people who take like psychedelics. I don't, but that's what it does. Moldavite, remove stagnation. Okay? Still, you move with the energy, and then you communicate, and then you see, and then you validate it, and then when something moves, happens, and you're more able even to listen slowly. Then that's medicine. You say, oh, but I have this, but I have that, but I have that. I'm not here to argue with you. What you need right now is okay. Something helps. It's not here to take it away from you. When nothing helps, are you housed? Do you have soil? Are you doing what you love doing? Are you seen, you validated? Very simple. And anybody that moves you away from this is not your doctor. It's not your doctor, and you're allowed to kill him, according to Second Amendment, but also according to John Locke. You must kill him. If they are insistent, if they are, yes, not letting you be, but they come for you to try to move you from being housed, move you from this, move you from that. Okay, if persistent, if they do this, forgive them. No, just back to my boundaries. If they persist, they try to do something like this, you must to protect your boundary by any means necessary, even if they did. Yes, if you need to move to another place, that's not the thing. Yes, if you need to move to another places, that's okay. But when it's trying to perpetually take you away from the ability to be housed, was not safe here, was not safe there, those type of craps, okay? So you see, grow with love. But the solution, if you need to move, so it is something, there's a calling, okay? again, then you begin to see this, you begin to see that, you begin to all the things, and then your worries will come up, and then you will see for each worry solution. Each worry you will see solution with, and then you forge through and you are walking your path. Same with labor. The same people that couldn't see me working are the same people that complained of why am I not working. The same people. They always have complaints. If I'm resting, they have complaints. If I'm working, they have complaints. Why? For many of them, they were singers. They were performers. But the world is so corrupt that they give up on performing, on singing. And for they need to tend to the codes. You must tend to the codes and to tend to ritual abuse of children, because it's at the heart of everything. And what happens when you have this ritual abuse, you perpetuate this, then of course it creates mass destruction. So they use this ritual abuse to create mass destructive weapon, but then in 6 minutes, any 6 minutes now, some foolish president can take a dumb fuckery decision and say, well, if I go down, let everything go down with me. Or you see what happens in the world, like maybe this is the right thing to do. Okay, so when we tend to the hidden suffering, we tend to the hidden weapons of mass destruction, which we use in malefic ways. When you're a performer, and to use your voice to sing, yes, it's that's the path. Okay, so sing the revolution or create. You say, well, everybody must work, must this, must that. No, not everybody must work. Then people that are working their soil, they work in their garden, they grow some food, exchange some food, okay, and they live. If you go have a parent that watches videos from Azerbaijan, and there's an old lady that she cooks there, and she has some dogs. She lives in a cabin and she cooks all day. She's doing this, taking from these plants and this and that, in a cabin in Azerbaijan. Okay, I'm not saying everybody can live like that. Yes, my fourth house is Gemini, so it's a bit of a city. But and indeed, for I thought I'm living in a village, small village. I am living territorially in the biggest city of Israel. Territorially. What is built is a village, a small village. But territorially is bigger than Tel Aviv, bigger. I did not know it. I wanted to move out of the city, out of the grid. It's not out of the grid here, unless I'm Bedouin, but it's, it's the biggest city to be built. I will have to move out of the grid, okay? But I'm also a city person, so it's very interesting. I don't know what to make of it. But different type of city. I was born many years living in city for my grandparents called Ramat Gan, which is basically the hill of gardens. Very small hill. We had 50 meters maybe 100 meters. The hill is called Napoleon Hill. But there were many gardens in this place. Eventually we still had to move out for the quality of air, but this was maybe such city where a lot of green, but also a lot of soil, and not building too high. I don't think about Netherlands, you only build 3 stories up. Now there's some party that want to change it, that want to build a skyscraper in Netherlands. I'm like, is given 9/11? And so, yes, for the solution of housing, then, Netherlanders live outside of Netherlands sometimes because they don't have housing in Netherlands. But they get sometimes money from government if they lived in Netherlands when they were young. I don't get this. Like, I don't receive that. It's not like I get this, but I don't receive such money myself. This is okay. Is one solution. Making big, like islands is also a solution. You don't have to build into the sky and miss, and then, the birds are lovely to watch. They're good friends of ours, and they tell us a lot about the sky. Yeah, there are other ways to build energy, like solar panels and batteries. So yeah, I think that's about the situation for housing, and yes, also to understand that the things tend to correct for themselves. Okay. The saying, you can fool some of people some of the time, but not all the people all the time, is important, because right now they try to fool all the people all the time. So we understand that eventually, something's got to give. And the more you understand this, then you have some sort of centeredness that opens up a space for you to have more options and more access, to things. And that depth is helping facilitating breakthroughs. So we talked about medicine, we talked about art of war, we talked about why not abuse people in captivity. It was also in jails and in hospitals, okay, or to say 12th, or in the bedroom. Okay, it's your 12th house. You don't want to mistreat a person when you have sex with them, because it's the 12th house. They become hidden enemy to you. It's true. It's dumb fuckery. So that is 12th house. Okay, what you want is the house of giving without expecting. The real house of charity, the closest to unconditional love. That's what it is. So yeah. If you see, for me, it's Aquarius. I have Uranus in 10th house. All of my videos here, you can watch them for free. And it's not monetized. So I don't get money for this. You can watch this for free. I guess it's like 12th house remediation for me. It just happens, and I feel compelled to give in that sense. And this is a place where I'm compelled to give in a way that's not a burden on somebody. Okay, if you can, for another person, it's the giving and receiving, is communication. But in this ways, genuinely like doing that. So, and Saturn, which rules, then it's my 9th house, with Saturn in the 9th. So this is teaching. If you take ascendant, Aries, then that would be Pisces, and then in my 10th house would be Neptune and Jupiter. So again, channeling, creativity, mediumship, astrology as well, healing professions, all given with generosity in the 10th house. What I'm known for, what my legacy is for. It's what I've given for free. Okay? For the Saturn would be in 8th house, ruled by Mars, 8th house. So occultist. Okay? And that is again, but it's also finances, the hidden aspects of finances, lineages around, all these trust funds and all that. And in the hidden secret societies, so called, like all of this, both ascendants work correct for this. This is good use of 12th house. Okay, for 12th house remediation. Suppose for to give something for free. In my case, teachings for free. With Jupiter, or it is Saturn in the 9th, ruling the 12th. It's both meaning teachings, giving them with generosity, true, correct teachings as much as I know, and to give it so a person can choose whether they like to listen, whether they don't like. It's not pressing anyone or forcing you, which I like, because in your university you would have to go to my lectures, which was really annoying for me, because you want to be where you want to be. Okay, but I support exposing people to knowledge, But I also supposed them, in university, to decide whether I like this, I don't like this, and not to have to be. And here you don't have to be. Okay. So this is good use of 12th house. To give without expecting a return on this particular venue. Okay, it doesn't mean that I won't necessarily change that, but that would mean me investing into astrology courses and then doing open courses myself. So it's not impossible, but then I will replace this practice with some other 12th house practice of charity. That is the house of giving without necessarily expecting return. And you can let's correlate with the Lada's teachings on 12th house charity. And so, yes, this is very benefic. Pluto 12th house of Pisces ascendant is appropriate to help political prisoners. Okay, so talk about political prisoners, advocate against torture, but also genuinely for whatever you can help or donate to political prisoners. And so this is, yes, important, both when they are imprisoned or when they are at hospital. Okay, psychic word by force, or not by force. It is when people that are in 12th house experiences or in refugees, homeless people, and so on. So that is survivors of trafficking, God forbid, courts, stuff like that. That's appropriate 12th house. You have to see which is yours, but for Pluto in particular, Pluto is political, Pluto's energy, Pluto is anything taboo, yes, related. But I can't see how that played out in my life. So, yeah, my God. Some things you do, you just naturally do. And this is, I think if you watch this channel, you already understand how this plays out. Yeah. Okay. So see you in another episode. Thank you for watching.